welcome to Easy Mind, Easy Life. Right, so going on from the topic we had before, and some of these videos, different videos are to create different awareness in you. Some of them are for you to look at yourself, and some of them are for you to actually pay attention to what's going on outside of yourself, things that we don't normally stop to observe, right? So the story I wanted to share here was this beautiful boy. I think at the time I was the only one, that seemed to think that he was this beautiful boy. I was the only one that could really see his beautiful spirit. And he was in my daughter's classroom for about 4 years straight. And she was saying to me, by the 5th year, if I end up with him in my classroom again, I'm going to scream, she said to me, because I can't stand him. So this beautiful little boy was actually one of my piano students. That's how I got to know him. And I was lucky because I had him as an individual student. So I got to know him one-on-one. I could give him all the attention he needed in the time that I had him in my class for piano. So I got to know him properly, And I remember in the first few years of school, I used to go in and help with the reading classes, or, I'd go in once a week or twice a week whenever we were allowed to assist the teachers, right, with activities. So I always signed up to do those things because I wanted to be a part of my daughter's group, and get to know the kids. And I've always loved being around kids, around children. So I got to really see him in my classroom one-on-one, right? And I really got to see him in an environment, where there were many of them around him. He was surrounded by all these other children. Now, I remember one day my daughter came home upset, that he had kicked her in the shin because he wanted her to do something and she wasn't doing it, right? She wasn't listening to him. Anyway, she came home really upset. And I said to her, just leave it. I think this was in year 1, right? She'd already had a whole year with him, and I had already observed him in class with the other children and things, his behavior and how he was with everyone else. And in my classroom, in my piano classroom, he was the sweetest little thing, right? He was just the most beautiful little boy. But in the environment where there were many of them, he was a completely different person, And I observed him. On the days I was there, I would observe him. Just because he was one of my students, I'd keep an eye on him, and if he needed help with anything, I would help him, and all these sort of things. But I also watched him because he used to be very, what's it called when they're with the teacher? There was a lot of friction with the teacher. He was always getting in trouble with the teacher. But there's a word when they're, what's the word? Not against authority, but he sort of behaved in a way like he knew more than the teacher. That sort of attitude, And he was never like that in my classroom, right? He was never like that in my classroom. So I wondered, being from kindy, from the youngest, age, he was always treating her like she knew nothing, like he knew more than she did, the teacher. And so he was very, always pushing her buttons, I guess. She was always getting cranky with him. But I was also observing his behavior with the other students, and he was always seemed to be picking on someone, upsetting someone in the classroom, And so that day when my daughter came home and she was really upset that he did that, I said to just leave it. And then I said to her, observe him the way I had been observing him for the past almost 2 years before that happened. And I said to her, watch him. I said, is it just you that he picks on? Or does he upset a lot of children in the classroom? And I said, and even look at how he talks to the teacher, right? He always talks to the teacher like she's this big dum-dum that knows nothing. He knows everything. She knows nothing. And she's the teacher, right? I said to my daughter. So I said, just look at his behavior and look at how he treats others, and then stop to think. I said to her, is he picking on you only? Or is he just lashing out at pretty much everybody that comes in contact with him, you know, throughout his day? And so she said to me, no, Mummy, she said, he upsets a lot of children in the classroom. And I said to her, yes. I said, so what does that say to you? I said to her, it means that you're not the one that has the problem. He is the one that has the problem. And so with time, by I think it was the 3rd year, and I still had him for piano for quite a while. By the 3rd year, we found out that the parents were getting divorced. And I found out, that there was like domestic violence, between the husband and the wife. So, this is all behind the scenes. Now, this was one of the few years that they didn't end up in the same classroom, which was great. But I think to myself, as a little one, even from that little, I could already see that there were problems, that there was already things going on that we weren't aware of. And his behavior was just lashing out because being so little, at home, he wouldn't have had a say, At home, he would have just been observing all of this that's going on. And somewhere inside of him, because I knew him, he had a beautiful heart. There must have been something that was like, this isn't right. This isn't. No, this is not what I want to be witnessing every day when I come home from school. I do not want to be a part of this, And so his only out was when he was at school, and he would just take it out on everyone else around him. That was the only way that he could release or express everything that was trapped inside that he couldn't at home, So I tell this beautiful story because it is like that with everything. When you're seeing someone that's lashing out, it's because there is something going on inside, something that they can't express, something that they haven't healed, something that's inside that feels it's in pain, it's suffering. There's a little child inside. This is what I always see now with grown-ups that are angry or lashing out or taking it out on someone else. I see this little child inside that's in pain. It's suffering and it doesn't know how to heal that. It doesn't know what to do with this inside. So, yeah, I tell all these beautiful stories, all these observations, so that you can start to observe in your life, in your world, what's around you, what's happening. And instead of just assuming that they're just a bad person, right? Because to me, in reality, there's no such thing. We are all just a sum of our experiences, of what we've been through, is who we are today as a human being, What's happened to us in our life is what makes us who we are today. And I think I've always known that from quite young. I never used to get angry or upset at other people lashing out because I always thought, oh, they have a problem. There's something wrong with them. Always. That was always my first reaction. Oh, they're upset about something. There's something wrong with them. There's something inside that hurts and they don't know how to heal it. I already knew from quite young. So it's really important that we, unless it is something that is personal to you, something that's happened that's bringing something up in you that you can look at and you can try and heal. But when you see others and their behaviors in the world, just stop to think, what could that person have gone through to be here at this point in their life and to be behaving in that way? What could they have possibly gone through? Because many times it's things that we can't even imagine that someone has been through. We can't even imagine it. There's just no way. And yet some people go through these experiences. So, yeah, just stop to think about that. Start to observe today the people around you, how they behave, and you know? Maybe start to look at the world in a different way. All right, my darlings, I love you guys. Remember to click like and subscribe so you don't miss any of the messages. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.